Hey everyone, welcome back. You know how sometimes you get a package and you think, how did this even get to me? Well, today, we're going to find out.
We are going deep into the world of industrial real estate.
Exactly. And we've got a ton of research here ready to go.
Yeah, we'll be looking at everything. From those giant warehouses to those high-tech data centers we hear so much about.
Right. The whole shebang.
The whole thing.
But first things first.
Yeah.
What even is industrial real estate?
Well, it might surprise you.
Yeah.
It's more than just a bunch of warehouses. It's really any property that's designed for industrial activities. Manufacturing, storage, you name it.
So it's like the backbone of the stuff we use every day.
Yeah, it's a crucial part of how our economy works. Most people don't even realize how much they interact with it.
I guess most of us just think warehouses.
Right, but it's so much more.
Okay, so what else is there? Besides warehouses, I mean.
Okay, so we can break it down into a few main types. There's manufacturing facilities. Now, these can be like your local craft brewery, small scale, what we call light manufacturing.
Right.
But then you've got huge car assembly plants.
Oh, yeah.
Heavy manufacturing. They both need very different setups.
Obviously. Different space, different power needs.
Totally. But both are essential.
Okay, so that's manufacturing. What about warehouses?
Right. Warehouses, the classic image, they're still crucial.
I mean, how else would they store all that stuff we buy online?
Exactly. And warehouses can be super diverse too. You've got your general warehouses for just about anything. And then there's specialized ones like cold storage.
Oh, yeah, for food, right?
Food, pharmaceuticals, anything that needs to be temperature controlled.
That makes sense.
And speaking of online shopping,
yeah,
we can't forget about distribution centers.
Yeah, distribution centers. Those are the ones that get stuff to us quickly.
Exactly. Speed is key for them. They're usually located near transportation hubs like airports and highways to maximize efficiency.
It's amazing how quickly we can get stuff delivered now.
Oh yeah, it's wild. And that's largely thanks to these strategically placed distribution centers.
Okay, so we've got manufacturing, warehouses, distribution centers. What about companies that need a mix, like office space and industrial space?
Oh, totally. That's where flex space comes in.
Flex space.
Yeah, it's super adaptable. Think of a startup that needs office space for their designers, but also a workshop area to build prototypes.
Oh, interesting. So it's like a hybrid space.
Yeah, it's perfect for businesses that are growing or need to change things up quickly.
Makes sense. Now, what about research and development?
Ah, yes, R&D. These facilities are all about innovation.
Yeah.
You'll find them in sectors like tech and pharmaceuticals.
So these are the places where they're coming up with the next big thing.
Exactly. They usually have labs, clean rooms, tons of specialized equipment. It's where the magic happens.
So cool. Okay, last but not least, those data centers. They're everywhere now.
Right. And they're only becoming more crucial. Our whole digital world relies on them. Think social media, online banking, streaming services. All that data has to live somewhere.
And that's in those giant data centers.
Exactly. High security, tons of servers, constant cooling, uninterrupted power.
It's kind of mind-blowing. Okay, so we've got a good sense of the main types, but what makes these properties so unique? What actually makes them industrial real estate?
Well, location is huge.
Okay.
Being close to major transportation hubs, that's key. Ports, highways, railroads, you name it, it's all about efficiency.
Yeah, makes sense. The faster you can move goods, the better.
Right. Then there's the infrastructure. These places need high ceilings for storage, strong floors to hold heavy machinery, tons of loading docks.
I can imagine those semi-trucks pulling in and out all day.
Oh yeah, it's a constant flow.
Right.
And size and scalability are crucial too. These properties need to be adaptable. Companies grow, their needs change.
Yeah, you can't just build a warehouse and expect it to work for everyone.
Exactly. And then, of course, there are all sorts of zoning laws and regulations, what can be built where, environmental impacts, safety codes.
So it's not just a matter of slapping up a building.
Nope. It's complex, lots of planning involved.
Now let's talk money. Why is industrial real estate such a hot investment right now?
That's a great question. I think a lot of it comes down to e-commerce.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
We're all shopping online more than ever, which means companies need more space to store and distribute their products.
I definitely contribute to that.
I think we all do. And that huge demand is what's driving up the value of industrial properties.
It's like supply and demand, right?
Exactly. Plus, industrial properties tend to have long lease terms.
Oh, right. So investors are looking for that stable, long-term income.
Precisely. Low vacancy rates, predictable cash flows. It's seen as a pretty safe bet.
But are there any downsides? What about risks?
Of course, there are always risks with any investment.
Right.
The biggest one is probably the initial investment cost.
Yeah, these properties are huge. I imagine it costs a lot to build them.
It does. We're talking about land acquisition, construction, infrastructure, the whole 9 yards. And then there's always the regulatory hurdles to jump through.
Zoning laws, environmental regulations, all that fun stuff.
Exactly. And we can't forget about market cycles. If the economy takes a downturn, demand for industrial space can dip.
So it's not completely risk-free?
Nothing is, unfortunately. But with careful planning, it can be a very good investment.
Okay, this has been super insightful. I feel like I'm already looking at those warehouses with a new perspective.
That's great.
But before we move on, I want to ask you something. If someone's listening and they're thinking, hey, industrial real estate sounds interesting, I might want to invest, what should they keep in mind? What advice would you give them?
First off, do your research,
Well,
know your market, where's the demand, what are the growth areas?
So don't just jump at the first opportunity you see.
Exactly. Then think about the type of property. Warehouses, distribution centers, manufacturing facilities, they all have different risks and rewards.
Right.
And of course, due diligence is essential. Thoroughly inspect any property you're considering. Review those lease agreements, understand the local regulations.
So basically be smart about it.
Exactly. Don't just rely on gut feeling. Use your head.
This is great advice. Thanks for sharing your expertise with us today.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
And listeners, think about that last package you got. Did you ever stop to think about how it got to you? All those warehouses, all those trucks. Well, we'll be back soon to explore that journey in more detail.
It's quite the journey.
It really is. We'll uncover the hidden world of logistics and all the fascinating things happening behind the scenes.
We'll be back soon. Welcome back to our deep dive into industrial real estate. Now, before the break, we asked you to think about that journey of your last online order. What did it take to get from the factory to your door?
Yeah. I'm curious to trace that path, and I'm sure our listeners are too. So for the sake of this, let's say I ordered a new pair of wireless headphones online. Where does that journey begin?
Well, it all starts at a manufacturing facility. That's where they're made.
Right, makes sense.
Could be anywhere in the world, really. Depends on the brand where they source their materials, but picture it. All those raw materials, the design, the people putting it all together.
Okay, so the headphones are assembled, tested, packaged, the whole 9 yards. What happens next?
Next stop, a warehouse.
Ah, the warehouse.
Of course.
It could be a huge distribution center owned by the brand itself, or maybe a third-party logistics provider.
So it's like the grand central station of products.
That's a great way to put it. They're designed to store and manage a massive amount of goods, using sophisticated systems to keep track of everything.
So my headphones are just chilling in this warehouse, just waiting.
Just waiting for you to click buy now.
Oh, I never thought about it like that. So what happens when I actually place the order? That's when things get really interesting. Your order comes in, gets processed, and then your headphones, they get picked from the warehouse shelves.
And I imagine this involves a lot of automation these days.
You got it. Robots, conveyor belts, the whole shebang.
It's amazing how efficient it all is.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. So once your headphones are picked, they get packaged for shipping, they slap on your address label, and then...
off they go.
Exactly. They get transported to a regional distribution center, probably closer to where you live.
Ah, so it's not a straight shot from the main warehouse to my house.
Nope. It's all about efficiency. Getting packages to regional hubs makes the whole delivery process faster.
Makes sense. So these regional centers are like the middlemen, making sure things run smoothly.
Exactly. They sort everything out, dispatch packages to their final destinations.
Okay, so my headphones are getting closer. What's next?
Now they're loaded onto a delivery truck. This is what we call last mile delivery.
Last mile delivery. That sounds kind of dramatic. What's so special about it?
It's that final leg of the journey, from the distribution center to your actual doorstep.
Okay.
And it's often the most complicated and expensive part of the whole process. Think about it. Navigating local streets, traffic, making sure everything's delivered on time.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a challenge.
Right. And this is where we see the rise of those smaller urban warehouses popping up.
Oh yeah, I've seen those around.
They're closer to city centers, so they can do same day or next day deliveries.
Gotta love that instant gratification.
Right. So yeah, it's quite a journey, starting on a factory floor, maybe on the other side of the world.
Traveling through warehouses and distribution centers.
And finally, ending up on your doorstep, ready for you to enjoy.
Wow. I had no idea. It was so complex. All those moving parts, all that coordination.
It really highlights how vital industrial real estate is, to that whole consumer experience.
I'm starting to think about those warehouses a lot differently now. Not just big buildings, but like crucial players in a global network.
Exactly. Okay, so we've followed our headphones. But what about the people behind it all, the ones who actually make this happen?
Yeah, who are the key players in the industrial real estate world?
Well, it's a whole ecosystem. First, you've got developers. They're the ones who find the land, get the permits, and build those massive facilities.
So they're like the visionaries, the masterminds.
You have to know a lot, market trends, what tenants need, all the regulations. It's a big job.
I bet. And of course, there are the investors, the ones putting up the money.
Right. They see industrial real estate as a long-term investment. And it makes sense. High demand, stable tenants, those long leases.
Right. It seems like a pretty safe bet, as long as you do your research.
Exactly. And then we have the tenants themselves, the businesses that actually use these spaces.
So that could be like manufacturing companies.
Yeah.
E-commerce giants.
Could be anyone, really, each with their own specific needs and requirements.
So it's a pretty diverse group. Who else?
Well, we can't forget the brokers. They're the ones connecting tenants with the right spaces.
Ah, the matchmakers.
They negotiate lease terms, make sure everything's a good fit.
That's a crucial role.
It is. And finally, there are property managers. They handle the day-to-day operations, make sure everything runs smoothly for the tenants.
So it really takes a village to keep those warehouses humming.
It does. Developers, investors, tenants, brokers, property managers, they all play a part.
This is fascinating. I feel like I'm learning so much.
Glad to hear it.
Okay, so before we wrap up, I'm curious. If someone's thinking about investing in industrial real estate, what are some things they should really consider?
Well, first off, location. Yeah. You want to be in a market with strong demand, and near transportation hubs, growing population.
So do your research before you jump in.
Absolutely. And think about what kind of industrial property aligns with your goals. Do you want warehouses, distribution centers, something else?
Right, you got to have a strategy. What about due diligence? Any tips there?
Due diligence is key. Inspect the property carefully. Go through those lease agreements with a fine-tooth comb. Understand the zoning laws, the regulations.
Sounds like it's all about being informed. Don't just go with your gut.
Exactly. And be prepared for the long haul. This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. Industrial real estate is a long-term investment. You need patience.
Patience and a good lawyer, probably.
Probably. But yeah, with careful planning, it can be a very rewarding investment.
This has been so helpful. Thanks for walking us through all of this.
No problem.
Now, listeners, before we move on to the last part of our deep dive, we want you to think about something.
I'm listening.
When you buy something online, do you ever consider all the steps it took to get to you? The warehouses, the trucks, all the people involved? It's amazing.
It really is.
We'll be back soon to explore the future of this fascinating sector and all the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into industrial real estate.
We've covered a lot of ground. Types of properties, the players involved, the whole journey of a product.
Right. But now it's time to look ahead. What's in store for the future of this sector?
Well, there are some big trends and some big challenges on the horizon.
Okay, so where do we even begin?
I think we got to start with e-commerce. It's been a major driver of growth in industrial real estate.
Oh?
What do you think? Is that going to continue?
Well, I mean, I can order just about anything online these days and have it delivered to my door. So yeah, I'd say e-commerce is here to stay. But how does that impact industrial real estate in the long run?
You're right. E-commerce is only getting bigger. So the demand for warehouses and distribution centers, it's going to keep rising.
So those concrete giants we talked about, even more important in the future.
Exactly. And as e-commerce evolves, so will the demands on these facilities. Think about it. Same-day delivery, super fast fulfillment times.
Yeah, people want their stuff like that.
Right. And that's going to require some serious efficiency and innovation from those warehouses and distribution centers.
Which brings us to another big topic, automation.
Automation and smart warehousing. Yeah, we touched on this before, but it's going to be huge in the future.
So like robots taking over the warehouses?
Kind of. I mean, we're talking about robots picking and packing orders, drones doing inventory management, AI systems predicting demand.
That sounds like a sci-fi movie. But seriously, what about the people who work in those warehouses now? Are they all going to lose their jobs to robots?
It's a valid concern. But I think it's more about a shift in the types of jobs rather than a complete takeover by robots.
Okay, so like instead of just picking and packing, people will be doing more skilled tasks.
Yeah, exactly. Things that require critical thinking, problem solving, working alongside those robots and AI systems.
So it's more about collaboration between humans and technology.
Exactly. Making the whole system more efficient, safer, and frankly, more interesting for the people involved.
That makes sense. Now let's talk about sustainability. We've mentioned it a few times. How do you see that shaping the future of industrial real estate?
Sustainability is a big deal. It's not just a trend, it's like a core value for a lot of businesses now. And in industrial real estate, we're seeing it manifest in some really cool ways.
Like what?
Green building designs, think solar panels, electric vehicle charging stations, energy efficient everything.
So eco-friendly warehouses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just the building itself, it's the operations too. Using recycled packaging, optimizing delivery routes to save fuel, reducing waste.
It's great to see the industry embracing these sustainable practices.
Yeah, and it's not just about being environmentally responsible, it makes good business sense too. Lower energy costs, better image for investors.
It's a win-win.
Totally. Now, it's not all sunshine and roses. There are definitely challenges ahead for industrial real estate.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned that earlier. What kind of challenges?
Well, some of the things we talked about before, they're not going away. High investment costs, those regulatory hurdles, and land costs, especially in urban areas, they're just going up and up. That makes it harder to build new facilities. And then there's the competition for those prime locations near transportation hubs. Everybody wants to be close to the action.
It's all about location, location, location.
It really is. And then those regulatory hurdles we talked about, zoning laws, environmental regulations, those are only going to get more complex. Especially with climate change and all the new concerns.
So developers and investors are going to need to be super adaptable to navigate all of that.
Absolutely. And another big challenge is labor shortages. Finding skilled workers, keeping them happy, that's a big one.
Yeah, that's something a lot of industries are dealing with right now.
It is. And then, of course, there's the whole issue of technological disruption. The industry is constantly changing, so you got to be ready to adapt, invest in new technology, learn new skills.
It sounds like the industrial real estate world is never boring.
You got that right. It's a dynamic, fast-paced sector, lots of challenges, but also huge potential.
Okay, this has been fascinating. I feel like I have a whole new appreciation for those warehouses and distribution centers I see every day.
I'm glad to hear that. It's been great exploring this world with you and our listeners.
Me too. And listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of industrial real estate. It's a hidden world, but it touches all our lives in so many ways.
From the clothes we wear to the gadgets we use, it's all connected to this incredible network of industrial properties and the amazing people who make it all happen.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.